Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on our webinar entitled How Read and Write for Google Chrome is Supporting Literacy at Mankato Area School District. This webinar is being hosted by TextHelp. We are the software developers for the Read and Write family of literacy support tools, and we're really happy that you joined us today. We think we have a really great hour in store for you. My name is Debbie Shaw, and I am the Territory Sales Director for TextHelp in the Midwest, and I will be your host today. I will also be doing a short demonstration of our products at the end of our time together. But first I want to just do some quick housekeeping items just to tell you what we have in store for you. I'm really excited to bring this webinar to you today. I think it's really helpful for educators to hear directly from other educators. So I'm very pleased that we have the folks from Mankato Area Public Schools here today to tell their story about how they got into Google Apps for Education, why they looked at Read and Write for Google Chrome as a support tool for their students, how things are going. They're going to give you the whole story coming up here in just a minute. As I mentioned, after that I will do a short demonstration of several of the tools. We don't have enough time to show you everything, but I think we'll definitely have enough time to make you a little bit more knowledgeable about what Read and Write does and how it works, and then we'll follow up at the end with next steps in terms of what we can do to assist you in moving forward with Read and Write in your district, how you can get Read and Write free for yourself as an educator, and then we'll also have some time at the end to answer any questions. So speaking of questions, you should all have a little control panel for the GoToMeeting on your computer screen here, and there is a little question box there. So we're going to just do a really quick, just a minute or so practice. Why don't you enter into that question box and tell us where you're from, and we'll look at a couple of those folks just so you know how to enter in the information there, and that's where, if you do have questions for either myself or for our customers at Mankato, you can put those in there at any time during the webinar, and we'll get to those at the end of our time together. Everybody else on the call will be muted, so the question box really is your best way to communicate with us. We will be, and we are, recording this webinar, and so at the probably early next week, Monday or Tuesday at the very latest, I'll be sending out an email to everybody letting them sharing with them a copy of the recording, a link to the recording, as well as a link to these slides, and then we'll also make sure that we provide you with some additional resources that I think you'll find really helpful, which will include the link for the Free for Teachers sign up. So Danielle, do you want to tell us a little bit about where some of our folks are coming from today?
Sure, definitely. And first, I want to thank everyone. We have so many responses, so thank you. You all found the question box, which is awesome. We have several people listening in from Fergus Falls, Minnesota. We also have a few from North Cedar Junior Senior High School. We have Mary from the Blake School, and she gave her name, so thank you for that as well. We have several people from Iowa, and they're saying, go Hawkeyes, so I feel like I should throw that out there, right?
That's right, the Hawkeyes are in the March Madness, so
exactly.
And I'm a proud graduate of the University of Iowa, so just for those Iowa folks on the call today.
So you're representing
as
well.
Great. That's right, that's right. Well, thank you, Danielle. So it gives me great pleasure, without any further ado, to introduce to you easy for me to say, Bambi Dubke and Dale Engman, both from Mankato Area Public Schools. What I love about their story and why I'm really excited for today is that Bambi specializes in working with technology on the special ed side, and Dale works with the technology on the gen ed or instructional side, and they work really great, very closely together. And so I think that's a really nice collaboration, certainly about Read and Write for Google Chrome, but just in general. So welcome, Bambi and Dale, and thank you so much for joining us today. And before I forget, I'm going to switch over and give you guys access to the keyboard and mouse.
Well, thanks, Deb. We're glad to be here. We're going to just kind of share our story with everyone. There we go.
So I'm Dale Engman, Instructional Technology Coordinator, and our district is Mankato Area Public Schools. We have about 8,800 students, 16 schools, 10 elementary, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools, and 1 alternative school, so that adds up to roughly 16, with some other random sites as well. And some of the items on the page here you'll see are areas that we kind of cover and support and thought of this product, Read and Write for Google, where it would fit in and help out. So our district's big philosophy is access and equity for all. So if one site or one department asks for it, we try to see, well, how can we give access to everybody? And that's what this product was actually brought to us from Assistive Technology with Bambi and her department, and we figured out we could fit it into talent development, Title I, English language learners, and even instructional technology overall. So our story, district technology-wise, our core values are on the left, which is we try to bundle all that into everything we do here in our district. We were a 6th to 8th grade one-to-one with iPad initiative for the first few years you see on the screen, and 9th through 12th grade was a bring your own device initiative. We ended up running our lease that we had with our iPads was going away, and we went out and got quotes from Apple and Chromebooks and PCs and whatnot, and ended up going with a 6 through 12 one-to-one initiative. We were able to do that after doing a pilot with our students. We took their iPads and got a classroom set of Chromebooks, gave them to the students, they tested it out, they decided they liked the keyboard better than the touch screen to do papers. Bring your own device students had broken screens, small phones. They were getting social media alerts and texts and calls from people, and they didn't really like reading and doing all their work on their bring your own device. And we ended up with Chromebooks 6th grade through 12th grade, district-wide, and then we were able to, because of that, take some iPads, push it down to the elementary school, so each school got about 60 iPads, and then we also had Chromebook carts, and we were able to push those down to the elementary schools. So we went from a bunch of technology in 6th to 8th grade to just about devices everywhere district-wide. So we needed some products and solutions to answer and help us out with our students. So that's where we're at.
And how we arrived at Read and Write Google in the 15-16 school year, I had a special education teacher come to me and tell me that she had some students that were low readers but were gifted and talented or talent development in math. And she was wondering if there was some way that they could be independent with reading the math. And I was like, well, matter of fact, there's this fabulous tool called Read and Write Google. And so she went to the Media Center and checked out some Chromebooks, and we signed the kids up for the 30-day free trial. And in not much time at all, the media specialist and the math teacher both said, you know what, the kids don't need a para in here anymore. They're totally independent with this Read and Write Google. And everyone was excited about it and happy about it. And I think it was like after Christmas break, the kids came running to the teacher. Our purple puzzle piece doesn't work. And she's like, what? Oh, the 30-day trial's up. And so then I started having the conversation with our instructional technology director and with Dale and telling them about this. And so we got it for the 2 kids, and then we kept having conversation and decided to do a pilot of the tool software, whatever, the extension, there you go, district-wide last spring. And we, thought it was good for all, and now here we are with implementation of the Read and Write Google district-wide this school year.
Yep. And our director pretty much said, hey, well, if it works for, in a sense, assistive technology, special ed, why can't it work for English language learners? Why can't it work for talent development? Why can't it even work for staff and families? So we went from a small department to district-wide. So it's been a great introduction. So moving on, we're going to cover now the deployment of it. G Suite, formerly known as the Google Apps for Education, in case you are not aware of that, change there. That's right, we have the mouse. I forgot about the mouse. We run our Google Apps for Education, so it's so easy to get into the Chromebooks, this extension. So when we first did the pilot and demo of it, we had all the students and all the staff, the entire district, we forced it out to everybody. And everybody started asking, what's this purple puzzle piece? We started to do trainings and stuff, which we'll cover on a couple slides later. It was a great way to deploy. And then since then, we've gone to optional staff deployment, which we'll tell some stories throughout the rest of this webinar on that. But as far as deployment with Google Suite, all you do is you go in, you add the extension, you hit boom, throw it into your OUs that you want it in, and it's there. You can force it out or have students self-select or staff self-select it. So piece of cake as far as the deployment. So now we needed to get the word out. We have the extension, we have this cool new tool. How do we do it? So
we started out in the beginning of the school year with digital communications, sent out emails to every student and staff in the whole district, letting them know that this was there. Dale did some summer curriculum development stuff.
Yep, we did professional development teachers, so part of writing curriculum in the summer, we encourage the use of this tool and saying, hey, Read and Write, you can use this with your classes, and have them write that stuff in or use it.
In our district, in the fall and spring and summer, we offer Learner Academy sessions in the evening in the school year, and in the summer it's a variety. And so then I said, hey, why don't I do some Read and Write Google sessions at Learner Academy? And Learner Academy is for anyone. It could be secretaries, custodians, teachers, paras, whatever. And I had a pretty good turnout at 2 different sessions, and it wasn't just special education. It was a Spanish teacher, gen ed. It was a wide variety of people, and seeing the light bulbs and the gasps and everything because of the excitement of this tool was really awesome to have that experience.
And then we have Tech Tuesdays with our media specialists, where they hold Techie Tuesdays. Before the Tech Tuesday in the summer, we have a meeting up with all our media specialists, and I showed them Read and Write and had them trained on how to use it, and then they give trainings on it, and then Bambi went.
I went to many of the Tech Tuesdays and just demonstrated Read and Write Google to the staff that showed up. Tech Tuesday is just an optional thing. Additionally, one of our buildings had us come and show at the staff development, or staff meeting, sorry, had us show the whole staff how to use it.
And we have an administrative newsletter that we send out just to building admins and say, here's our products that we're using, here's things that you should be doing, etc. And we ask them to encourage the use of using Read and Write in front of their staff, maybe in a staff meeting, encourage the use for different, either highlighting a piece of it. When you see the demo, you'll know more about the little options and tools that you can use inside of it. So we encourage that with them, as they're the building leaders, and we try to have them also be the technology leaders within the building.
The direct instruction with students, I've gotten out to many, many classrooms and just taught the students themselves, just taught the whole class how to use it, the tools, the features, and that again, has been a great experience. Some of the kids hadn't ever clicked on the purple puzzle piece because, you know, some kids are rule followers and don't know if they should do things. And then other ones are like, oh yeah, I wondered what that was, so I clicked on it and I've been using it for months. So it's been good getting out there teaching the kids.
Then we have parent involvement nights. A few times throughout the year we have our sites, schools will host parent nights or family circles, things like that. And we mention this tool as an option because the students all have Google accounts, so they have access to this at home so they can work with their brothers and sisters or their family if they would like on this awesome tool, use software.
Hey Dale, before you go to this next slide, you guys have such a wonderful infrastructure in terms of some of these resources and events that you're doing. Maybe other districts don't have these kinds of resources available to them. What would you say to districts in terms of the learning curve for Read and Write for Google and the amount of time it really does take to train on it or to feel comfortable using the tools?
Good question. So training is a piece of cake because all you do is you click on the purple puzzle piece, and then once you're really authenticated with your Google account, it's a little drop down pops, and then you can hover over any of the tools that are within it, and it pretty much tells you what it is. And then when I trained my media specialists, I said, well, hey, I like discovery learning. You can just hover over any of these things and see what it does, and within a few minutes you can pick up most of the power of Read and Write. And 10-15 minutes, you're probably close to an expert in being able to use this for the most part. And then they said, that's it? Wow. Okay. Well, it works pretty nicely that way.
Yeah, and it's really just a matter of, getting in there and playing with it, figuring out what each thing does. But it's really intuitive, and once they play with it, the kids and the staff all figure it out relatively quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent.
So this next slide, we're going to get data, which is tools and stuff inside of this. And this is the district, Debbie can probably give a better answer of. 2 people in the district have access to this, and I was able to get this before this webinar so we could talk about usage stats and see kind of what tools within Read and Write are being used. So this data is ran from the beginning of the year, kind of when we kicked off school. So that's right, I have a mouse, I keep forgetting that. Thank you. This is the beginning of the school year, and you can kind of see the little pieces of the chart and the usage. So then over here you can see on this pie chart, this is an events by type, or kind of the tools within Read and Write. And you can see the big 2 pieces of use are these 2 tools here. So we know that that's being used by the people that are using it. Then there's all these little sub-tiny ones that we could focus on, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes throughout the year. So then,
and for people who can't see that very well, the blue is the speech, so that's text-to-speech, the ability to have the computer read content back to you, and the red is word prediction, right? So those are the 2 that we're getting the most usage.
Correct, yes. Yeah, so and these are not the greatest pictures, so I apologize about that. The tools listed here, and you can hover over it and it'll actually give you the full percent within this data dashboard that we have. So you can see the usage throughout the district is I have 3,854 events back on February 28th. So I can use that information to kind of drive either targeted instruction. Hey, media specialists, let's focus on this tool, the speech tool this week or this month. Let's see if we can get those numbers up or something like that.
And this time of year, a lot of our media specialists and I think like 4th and 5th grade teachers are doing a lot of research with the students, and we're kind of thinking that might be our spike right now because within Read and Write Google there's some highlight research tools. So.
And you can also see the quiet time when teachers are setting curriculum. And
actually, that was MEA.
Yeah, that's MEA, yeah. This is MEA for Minnesota Education Association. It's our 2 days of professional development for all those Iowa Hawkeye fans out there. I don't know if you guys get those things. So our next one is moving forward, and we just talked about data to improve usage. So I kind of mentioned some things. We can look at that pie chart and now say, hey, we'd like to maybe use this tool or focus in on this a little bit more. We also know from the usage, that we have 8,800 students, so it looks like from that one day that maybe half have used it or something at that time, which is nice. Would we like to have it go up? Sure, you bet. So one of the things that we want to do is gather feedback from the students and staff and see maybe students, hey, what are you using? How easy was it to learn? Did you have your teacher talk about it? Or so on. Staff, we could survey them and say, hey, what tool did you use? When did you use it? What times a year would it be great? Do you need PD? Stuff like that of that nature. Continued training. Of course, students are real easy. We have the ability to email all the students through our Google system by grade level. So I can quickly write up a letter or training, send it to them and say, hey students, check out this new tool or software or app or extension. Here's Read and Write training. And a lot of them will pick it up and look at it, and then it spreads through the buildings and schools pretty quickly. The big bold one is staff. And many staff are, Debbie asked earlier about PD and training on it. As we said, all you really have to do is click on the little purple puzzle piece. It pops up, and it's not rocket science to figure out. But staff kind of put their heels in the ground a lot and say, well, we don't have time for PD, or we have PLC, or it sometimes stops with staff being as our barrier at times. So we're trying to find creative and fun ways to train them without burdening them with their busy schedules.
For example, we've talked to the secondary administrators and are going to offer some sessions after school, and that can give them their 1 hour of technology that they need for relicensure. And we're going to do the Read and Write Google, and then Dale's going to share some other apps and extensions that are new or people are using or whatever. So.
Yeah. So, and then parents, we put parents on there because we have a lot of EL families that could really benefit from this, and how do we encourage and train them on how to use it so maybe their children will use it, because maybe they're not aware of it for some reason. Maybe they messed it up at the student level. So those are all things that we're looking at moving forward to based off of what we've done this year. And the last piece is that optional deployment. So we talked about Google, the deployment. We pushed it out to everybody when we did the pilot. When we went full implementation, we took off the forced installation for staff, because our OUs, the way it's organized, is all the staff get it at once. So we don't have a custodial OU or so I'm talking Google admin here. We don't have technology OU. It's all the adults really are all in one group. So we are restructuring that this summer, so we'll be able to just push it out to teachers if we'd like, and then they'll have the purple puzzle piece active for them, and they'll probably use it more, because currently it's set to optional, so the teachers have to go out to the Google Chrome store, search Read and Write for Google, download it, install it, put it on, which really isn't that hard, but usually that big bold staff that we talked about here, they get stuck at the Chrome store. What? The Chrome what? So it makes it a little difficult. So that's part of our training that we need to work on, of letting them know where this Chrome store is, how they can get it and put it in. But once you have that, it's great. So if we can push it out to them district-wide, it'd be fantastic.
Push it out to the teachers and paras for all EL, Title I, everybody.
Yep. So that's kind of where we're at with moving forward. And then we get to Debbie.
Well, thank you. I have another quick question for you. So you mentioned early on in one of your first slides about making a decision to implement this district-wide as opposed to looking at just your EL students or just certain special ed students. Can you talk a little bit, is that pretty typical for your district? Many of us have heard that term UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and many districts do look for tools that support all students. Is that the philosophy in your district, or was there something else at play there? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
We don't necessarily use the terminology UDL, but we just talk about access and equity for all.
Mm-hmm. And we do understanding by design. We'll do a little bit of that as far as our curriculum and development model. So, you know, starting at the end product, what do we want? How do we get there? And then we create the course and then find the tools that will help align best to that curriculum.
And when you were making the decision and when you piloted Read and Write, did you look at other tools that are similar or do some of the same type of things that Read and Write does?
Well, me, you know, being in special education, I've had access and used a variety of tools, and I liked the Read and Write Google because it just adds nicely to, you know, as an extension, and the tools within there, like the research tools and the talking dictionary, you know, it's just good for all kids and can support all kids.
Great. Okay. Well,
and we had an ace in the hole, which is Bambi, so she already knew that this existed, so we didn't have to go too deep in our research and finding stuff because we already had this tool that we thought hit it out of the park. So
perfect. Thank you. So you guys will be staying on, and so for people that have questions for Dale or Bambi, please feel free to type those into the chat box, and we'll be taking questions the last 10 or so minutes of our time together here, so please put those in. And I'm going to start to show some of the tools, and Dale and Bambi would love your input as we go through some tools. If there are some particular student success stories or things that you've noticed about teachers and students using tools, I welcome the interaction on any of that. So when you registered for this webinar, we asked you the question about how much experience did you have with Read and Write, and many of you have played around with it a little bit. A couple of you feel like you're experts with Read and Write, which is awesome. And there's a nice big group of you that have little awareness or no awareness about Read and Write. So for the next minute or so, I'm going to talk to you folks. So just to give the 30,000-foot view of what Read and Write is, Read and Write for Google Chrome is a Google Chrome extension. An extension is something that extends the use of your browser, which is unlike an app, which is kind of a standalone application. But this extension is what we call a literacy support toolbar. And you'll see in a second when I open up the toolbar that there's probably overall about 20 different tools that support students in the area of reading, writing, and then organization and study skills, all with inside of the G Suite products. And so right now you're looking at my Google Drive, and we're going to look at three toolbars that are all part of the same extension. This is not three different extensions. They all work together. But Read and Write currently doesn't support every single file format that G Suite has available. So the first toolbar we're going to look at is the tools inside of Google Docs. Then we're going to look at the tools inside of Web Pages, and then we're going to wrap up looking at the tools inside of PDF files. So if you say, well, how does this work in Google Slides? Well, it's not actually supported yet in something like Google Slides. Some of the tools will work, but our intention is to hopefully get to the place where these tools work throughout all the G Suite applications. But right now it's Docs, Web Pages, and PDFs, and what we call EPUB, which is electronic publications or books. So you heard Dale and Bambi keep talking about the purple puzzle piece. So when I am in a Google Doc, which I am here, you see that on my address bar I have this little tab that hangs down with the purple puzzle piece icon, and that lets me know that Read and Write for Google Chrome is installed with my account. The nice thing is that this is attached to a user and not a device. So I have to be logged in to my Chrome browser as Debbie@texthelp.com in order for my extensions, my apps, my bookmarks to follow me. If I were to use a Chromebook at school and then I go home and maybe I have a Windows machine or a Macintosh, as long as it's got the Chrome browser on there, I have to just log into the Chrome browser using my school ID, and then all of those apps, extensions, and bookmarks follow me. So the nice thing is, no matter what kind of device I'm on, Chromebook, Windows machine, Macintosh, I can get Read and Write for Google available to me, regardless of what machine I'm on. This is different than what we used to do with a desktop product that was installed on a particular piece of hardware. So if the student wasn't sitting at that particular computer, they did not have access to the tools. So when I click on the little purple puzzle piece, you'll see that the toolbar drops down and now is made accessible to me, which is great if I don't need to be using them at this point. All I have to do is click back on the purple puzzle piece and the tools get hidden away. Before we talk about the tools, which are all on the left-hand side of the toolbar, I want to quickly point out the little settings icon over here. If I click on settings, the nice thing, Bambi talked about the fact that there wasn't a really steep learning curve for Read and Write, and one of the reasons that is because there really isn't a lot you have to do to it. There aren't a lot of settings or preferences or different options that you have to determine for yourself, but there are a couple. The largest piece of what Mankato is using is the text-to-speech, the ability to read content out loud. Well, when your students are using text-to-speech, one of the things that they're going to want to play around with is the voice that is reading back to them. So you'll see here, if I click on the voice, I have lots of different options available to me. Now, all of these already come installed when you install the extension. You don't have to add any different ones. But I do want to point out they're not all English-speaking voices. So the U.S. voices that are at the top, and then you see some U.K. voices. Further down, there's some Australian voices. Those will all read English because they're English-speaking voices, but with some of those you'll get them with a lovely Australian accent, for example. But if I pick Mexican Spanish Paulina, she's not going to read my English content with a lovely Spanish accent. She's actually a Spanish-speaking voice. So this is a great tool for your English language learner students or for students who are taking a foreign language. As long as there is Spanish content being displayed on the screen, you can pick a Spanish voice and then it will read back to you in Spanish. And if you scroll through that list, you'll see there are a lot of other different voices as well. We also can adjust the reading speed, and so if students prefer a slower voice, if they need more time to process, they can do that. You can check to determine whether or not it stops after the end of every sentence, or whether it just continuously reads sentence after sentence until the user determines whether they need to stop or pause the reading. We talked about the different voices available. Under language, I can actually change the entire program into a couple different languages, Spanish being the one that is used the most. So not only is the voice now in Spanish, but word predictions in Spanish, the dictionaries in Spanish, anything that would normally require English text is now available fully in Spanish. So a great way to help bridge your EL students or students taking a foreign language, learn a lot about how to manage in a secondary language as well. And then one of the newest things that we've done recently is the ability to hide or move around the different icons on the toolbar. So for some students, seeing all of these different tools at once, even though they're very easy to use, may be initially daunting. And so just by sliding this little radio button over to the other side, I can hide any of these tools that I don't necessarily want available on my toolbar right now. And then, of course, just click that little radio button back, and then the tool will be displayed again. So you're not deleting the tool, you're not getting rid of it, you're just hiding it for the time being. I can also click on the tool and move them up or down. So if I want to see a certain tool as the first one on my toolbar, I can move it where it is best for me. Okay? And so there are a couple of other settings, but those are the ones I think are the most important for you. So let's start with text-to-speech, right? So the ability for the computer to read text out loud. This is great for struggling readers, but this is also great for students who are maybe proofreading their content that they've written, right? So how many of us have written a big, long couple paragraphs worth of stuff and proofread it to ourselves only later to see an error that we totally missed, right? Because when you're proofreading your own content, you know what you meant to say, so you often read right over an error. But if your students use a text-to-speech engine to proofread their writing, they will often catch things that maybe they wouldn't normally. Or they'll hear their tone in a certain way, or the way that, you know, they phrase things. And so it really helps them to be better writers by using text-to-speech with their written word. So I'm going to position my cursor just somewhere in the beginning of somewhere in the first sentence here. Now remember, I have it set to continuously read. As I hover over my tools, it will pop up a little dialog box that tells me what that tool does, and you can see that triangle is my play button. And so now if I click the play button, it will begin to read from the beginning of that sentence.
Have you ever thought about what it is like in space? Astronauts are people who go out into space. Being an astronaut is...
And I can pause it if I want to stop it at some point. Maybe I need more time to process, so maybe I want to go back to a sentence and have it read again. When I click the pause button a second time, it will just pick up and start reading again.
It's an exciting job.
And you'll notice what it's doing as it's reading, it's doing dual synchronous highlighting. So it's highlighting the sentence that we're working on in yellow, and then it's highlighting each word as it's reading in blue. So this is really important for students who struggle with reading because it helps keep their focus on the page. As they're listening and seeing the words read, it's helping them with vocabulary. So a lot of really good reasons to have a text-to-speech reader with the dual synchronous highlighting. When I'm done, all I have to do is click the stop button, and then the highlighting goes away, and I can move on to, you know, do whatever I need to do. Hey Bambi, any thoughts, since this is one of the tools that's used most frequently at Mankato, any thoughts about using text-to-speech with your students?
Well, the first thing that pops into mind is we had a staff member who had a concussion and had to limit her screen time, and so she was using this to have things on her computer read to her. And, you know, having the students have the ability to have things read to them, of course, is always a benefit for the kids who learn better through hearing versus just seeing.
Exactly, right. Well, and that's a perfect example with that teacher. And the nice thing about having it available to everybody is now you don't have to worry if that teacher has a license or does she need it just for a few weeks or a few months or whatever. You also mentioned another staff member who had a physical, like a broken arm or something wrong with their shoulder or something, right?
Yeah, a shoulder injury, and for doing all of her reports and everything, she's been using the speech to text.
Got it. Right, which we'll see in a second. Perfect. Great. Thanks. So that's the text-to-speech. And so a couple of other things that one of the nice thing about Read and Write is not so much that any of these tools are so different than anything you're going to see anywhere else, but that they're all in one easy-to-use toolbar, right? So my students now can work on their document just with these tools and aren't going searching for the tool that they need. So they're not jumping in and out of web pages or in and out of different extensions. Everything is right there on that toolbar. And so we have a dictionary, not that exciting. There's, lots of electronic dictionaries, but the fact that the dictionary is embedded right in that toolbar makes it really easy to use. So if I don't know a word, all I have to do is click inside that word. I click on the dictionary, and you'll see the dictionary definition opens up. The little play buttons next to the words and next to the definitions lets me know that I can have that read aloud if I want to. The nice thing about Read and Write is it also has a picture dictionary. So if I click on my picture dictionary, not only do I get a definition of the word, but now I get a picture of the word itself. And I can keep these dialog boxes open, and then as I come across words that maybe I don't know or I'm uncertain about, all I have to do is just click in the word, and then both my picture dictionary and my regular dictionary actually repopulate with that updated information, which I think is really great.
Hey, Debbie.
Yes.
As I've been out and about showing this to people, we also figured out that you can click on one of the symbols in the picture dictionary and drag it on your Google Doc next to the word. So if there's anybody that needs symbol support, they then have that.
Exactly. You sure can. So thanks for mentioning that. And that kind of goes along with my personal favorite tool, combining the dictionary and picture dictionary, which is our vocabulary tool. So I'm going to close these up, and you see that I have a couple highlighters here, right? 4 different color highlighters. So if I am going through this document and I want to build a vocabulary list for myself, maybe based on words that I need additional help with or I want to focus on, all I have to do is go through and select and highlight any of the words that I need additional help with, okay? And it doesn't matter what color they are. It doesn't matter if they're all the same color or if they're all different colors. They just have to be highlighted, and we're highlighting single words. We're not, at this point, but we will talk about this in a second, we're not highlighting phrases or pieces of text. We're just building a vocabulary from single words. Once I do that, I click on my vocabulary tool, and you see that I get a little message that's telling me a new list is being created. This takes about 20 or 30 seconds, and it's going to open up a new Google Doc that is going to combine all of the words that I had highlighted into a single document, and hopefully it's like we should hope, there we go, it should open up any second now. And once it's open, you'll notice I have each of the words I had highlighted, plus I have the definition and a symbol for each of those words, or that picture from the picture dictionary. So what a great way for students to quickly and easily build their own vocabulary list. And keep in mind, this is just a Google Doc. It's now saved in my drive. And so on the far right-hand side, I have a little notes area, and so I can use this section to maybe use the word in a sentence, or maybe define the word in my own words, or if this is an English language learner student, maybe put the word in my native language there, so now I have all those components together. So Dale and Bambi, have your teachers been using a vocabulary tool very often?
Not that I don't know of many using it, but when I show it, they get excited about it. So I guess I haven't gone back and followed up to see how they're using it.
Yeah,
right.
The highlighting tool itself, a story I have was we were showing off when we first got Read and Write. We were going through a teacher's room that was going to possibly get a Chromebook cart next year, and she actually had on the boards almost those same 4 highlighter colors and was having her kids do a research project with pen and paper and all that. And I said, can I just interrupt for a second and show the kids something? And one of the kids like, who's RW? And you see the purple puzzle piece on your Google Doc. It looks like a user, and we were able to show, hey, click on that real quick, and the teacher is like, who's RW? Which one of you is RW? Your picture. So we were able to show this off real quick and show them how to use that highlighting tool and collect the notes and stuff like that. And it's one of my favorite stories of using this.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm going to go back to my Google Doc and I'm going to scroll down a little bit where I've got some white space, and let's talk a little bit about some of the writing tools. So for a struggling writer, something like word prediction can be a very helpful tool. The ability for the computer to prompt the student on words that they might want to use in their writing. But the nice thing about this word prediction is that I don't have to be a perfect speller in order to use that. So if I say I saw an elephant, and I'm not sure how to spell elephant, so I'm going to sound it out, right? That maybe looks a little right. So now you see I have a list to choose from. Well, maybe I can see automatically, oh my gosh, here's elephant right on my list. I misspelled it. But what if I'm not sure? Well, I can hover over each of these words and it will read it out loud to me. Or I can open up my dictionary and my picture dictionary like we had before, and now as I hover over each of these words, it's going to give me the definition, it will give me a picture, so now I know whether or not the word I need is on this list, and all I have to do is just click on it and it will replace that misspelled word and then start me off with the next word in my sentence. Okay, so I think that's great. So I'm going to close these up, close word prediction. But even word prediction for some students still doesn't allow them to get all their thoughts out on paper. Or, as Bambi said, if you have a student that maybe has a something physically that is preventing them from typing a lot, using dictation or speech to text is often a very good tool. I've heard of a lot of students who like to just get their thoughts out really quickly and then from that build their outline, start to organize themselves. And so real quickly what I can do is, you see I have like a little set of headphones here, my speech input tool. So I'll click on that and then I can start talking and it will dictate what I'm saying into my document. Today is Thursday, period. I'm really excited to share these tools with you on the call today! Exclamation point. All right, so you can see I didn't have to do any training. I didn't have to spend any time talking into the microphone. All I did was click the tool, speak, and I can use punctuation. I can use new line, new paragraph, and it will dictate my speech directly into this Google Doc. So a great tool to assist struggling writers. So we are have so much more. No, we're not going to be able to see everything today, unfortunately, but in order to make sure we see most everything, I'm going to leave the Google Docs toolbar and we're going to go into web pages. Before I do, Dale or Bambi, anything more you want to say about the Google Docs toolbar?
Just it has tons of fabulous features. Check it out.
Right. Tons that we're not even going to be able to see today, but hopefully this will encourage all of our folks on the phone today to download the extension themselves and try it out. So, okay, so I'm going to go over to this web page, and what you can quickly see is that this is looks a lot different than the Google Doc that we were on just a minute ago, right? So there's a lot going on here. There's advertisements, there's some animations up here. I've got hot links. I've got drop-down menus. I think there's even, if I scroll down, there's like a little blog and a place for me to leave comments. So a lot going on here. I might not necessarily need to read every single word on this page. And so in order for me to see my tools, you'll notice I don't have that purple puzzle piece hanging down off my toolbar anymore when I'm in a web page. But where my extensions are, which is just to the right of my omnibar, which is what this is called here, your omnibar, you'll see that I have the purple puzzle piece. So if I click on that, it will just pop open my toolbar right on top of my web page here. And one of the things that you'll notice is most of these tools are identical to the tools that we had in Google Docs. So they work the exact same way. I have word prediction and my highlighters, and I can build a vocabulary list, and I've got dictionary and picture dictionary, and I can read the text. What's different, because I might not need to read every single piece of text, is I have the ability to hover on top of my speech or on top of my text and have it speak. So if I go down here to the second paragraph, you'll see that it will start to read wherever my cursor is hovering, right? And it does the dual synchronous highlighting. If I need to skip and I want to go down to the fourth paragraph, all I do is just hover my cursor over there. And if I go up and I want to, let me shut that off, if I want to read some of these hot links, all I do is I'm not clicking, I'm just hovering my mouse on top of this text and it will read that text for me. But for some students, this is a really busy page. Some students will easily get distracted from this. And so a tool that is on this toolbar that isn't on the others is Simplify Page. So if I click on Simplify Page, it's going to declutter a lot of that stuff that was on that web page and give me just the text that I need to know, right? And so you can see now this is nice and clean and decluttered and doesn't have all that other stuff on it, and I can easily see just the content of my text here. And one of the things that I love about the highlight tools, and Dale had mentioned them just a minute ago, is that I can quickly and easily, either from this simplified page or from the original page, I can build my own study guide. So if I wanted to highlight some text, and I'm just going to quickly do this because we're like running out of time here, I can pick out the most important pieces here, and now I can click on the Collect Highlights tool, and it's going to open up a new Google Doc, and it's going to extract my highlighted pieces and put it in a new Google Doc. And so now I can just take the key pieces of information that I want to study, or I want to build into a paper I'm writing, or maybe a project I'm working on, and now I have just that. You'll notice that I have a hot link down here at the bottom. If I click back to that hot link, it's going to take me back to my simplified page, and if I had extracted the highlights from the main cluttered filled page, it would take me back to that one. So wherever you're collecting the highlights from, you'll get a link to go right back to that if you needed to do some additional research or wanted to maybe cite the information that you used. You can go back to that. Okay.
So Debbie, this is one of those
Yes.
times you have to call the fire department because you're going to blow the teachers' minds when you show this off.
Okay, good, good. Well, I hope the people on the call with us feel the same way, and that we've done a little bit to blow their minds today, so great. All right, and then I want to make sure that we do have some time for questions. So the last thing I want to real quickly show you is I'm going to go to a Google Doc. No, I'm not. I'm going to a PDF. I apologize. Those of you who have used Read&Write before may notice that we have a new PDF toolbar. This was released last week. It's not exactly beta, but we haven't made this the default PDF viewer yet. We're collecting information from our customers, just making sure that there are no issues, there are no problems with it, but you can get this toolbar now if you want to and use the new toolbar with your PDFs, and I think it has a much cleaner, nicer look to it, similar to the other toolbars that the original PDF toolbar did not. So I have word prediction. I have something called Click to Speak, which allows me to just click on any block of text and it will read it to me. I can highlight and extract highlights. You'll see under here I only have one highlighter, but if I click on it, here's my 4 highlighters, my clear highlights, and my collect highlights. So all the same tools you're used to. What's different on the PDF toolbar is the ability to annotate directly into this PDF. So you'll see I have a little T for typewriter, and so if I click on that, anywhere I click where I have white space, I can now add a note, right, an annotation. So I can add my notes here. What I like is that now I can change the font. So if I need to increase the font size, I can. I have word prediction, so if I need some additional help with which word to use, I can bring up word prediction. Those of you who have used annotations in the past may notice that the dictation button is not available. It's coming. We should have the speech input into annotation back within the next week or two, and so you'll be able to dictate right into your annotated box. And so I can just click on the check mark, and now my annotation stays here. And so anybody who has Read and Write for Google installed also, they can now see my notes, my highlights. If they don't have Read and Write for Google installed, they would not see any of my annotations. So when you're collaborating, that's something to think about. Also, what's new here is that many of you are familiar with using comments when you're collaborating on a document inside of Google Docs. And so now, if I click anywhere in my document, you see my little comments button pops up in a PDF. And so now I can, I can collaborate with a colleague and add my own notes, or if I'm a teacher, I can perhaps provide some feedback to my students by using the comment section here inside a PDF, which I think is going to be is a great collaboration tool. All right. So before we take questions, Dale, Bambi, anything about any of those last few tools we saw?
No, I think they're awesome. Just, yeah, there's so much fun in there.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. So what we're going to do, while we take questions, Danielle, do you want to start the poll? You'll see in a minute that there will be a poll that will come up on your screen, and basically we want to know how we can help you. If you would like to see a full demo of the product with some maybe folks from your district, we're happy to do that. If you want someone to contact you or you need a price quote, or if you're interested in doing a pilot with all of your students, please let us know that as well, and we can certainly arrange that. So I don't know if Danielle has started the poll.
The poll's been
Okay,
launched
great.
now.
Perfect, great. So while we're waiting for folks to fill out the poll, did we have any questions that we want to address in the last few minutes?
Yes, we do. We have a few questions, and I thought maybe it would be best to start with the questions for Dale, or that directly relate to Mankato. So
Sure.
Dale, one question we received is, can you speak to how you received or got funding to purchase Read and Write? Did you have to go through various groups? And
Oh, we had money in our technology budget, so we were able to purchase it district-wide because of our access and equity for all. It was supported all the way through our Director of Teaching and Learning, so we were allowed the funding out of our department.
Great. Another question for you, Dale, regarding that slide where you had a chart that showed data usage. Can you explain where you got that from? Is it from a text help tool or from a Chrome management tool? Was the specific question?
Yeah, that comes from, there's two people that get that level access when you get the Read and Write Google membership subscription purchase, and then you can run those reports within the system from Read and Write. So it's not a Chrome management thing. That's directly as a use of the product.
Exactly. Let me expand a little bit on that. So if for any current customers that might be on here today, you have to let us know that you want access to that. We don't automatically give it to you. You need to just let us know, and that's fine, and we'll send you everything you need to know. It takes literally 30 seconds to get that set up. And what it's measuring, we're not capturing any student data. So we can't tell you about how often John Smith is using the tools. What it's capturing is events. So a student clicked on the dictionary, a student clicked on word prediction, a student clicked on dictation, and so those are events. And it's measuring the number of events over time. And what this is really meant to do, and Dale did a perfect job of it, is to show you trends, comparisons. How much usage are we getting this month versus last month? Because obviously we want to see that increase. It's not meant for you to drill down to each individual event, but you're really looking for trends.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions,
Yes,
Dan?
we have a few questions about pricing and free for teachers. Can you speak to both of those?
I sure can. So pricing comes in 3 different ways. So a district can purchase an individual license, and our license now is what we call a family license, which means you can get access to any version of our software. This is our Google platform, but we also have a product that runs on the Windows operating system, the Mac operating system, the iPad iOS operating system. So your license entitles you to all of those. A single license for a student is $145 per student per year. Or you can get a group license, which is any subset of your student population. So let's just say you're not ready to make the leap like Mankato did, and you want to provide this just to 6th graders, then it's a minimum of 150 licenses, and the price drops to $12 a student. But if you're like Mankato and you say, you know what, this is beneficial for all students, we just want to do this district-wide, it's based on your total student enrollment, and it's $1.75 a student. So that's the pricing. Free for teachers, today you can download the extension from the Chrome web store, and you will get 30 days free trial of all of the tools I showed you. During that 30 days, before you expire, you'll want to register your account, your Chrome account, with us as a teacher, and then you will get full access that will never expire. We automatically renew teacher accounts every year. In the follow-up email that I'm going to be sending out on Monday, I will have a link in that email to the Free for Teachers registration site, but you can certainly today go to the Chrome store and download the extension and get started.
We also have a couple of word prediction questions. One is, can you make the word prediction tool go horizontal versus vertical? And can you increase or change the size of the font?
We've been doing some work with our text boxes. Right now with word prediction, you can't do anything to the box. The box is the size it is. You can't make it go horizontally. You can't change the font size, but changing the font size of word prediction box is something that we've heard a lot, and so it is something that we are looking at trying to do. But right now, it is what it is. And so, Dan, we have time for maybe one more question, and maybe we can close up the poll.
Sure.
As well.
Yes.
So if you haven't voted yet, please do so. And we have maybe one more question we can take.
Sure. With the PDF toolbar, we're just confirming that that works with worksheets, right, as well?
Yes, if the worksheet is in a PDF format, absolutely. You just need to make sure that it's accessible and not an image-based PDF, meaning you can read it, it can be written on using these tools. But yes, if it's a PDF worksheet, absolutely these tools will work with that. So you can fill out answers on the worksheet if it was something that needed to be filled out, absolutely.
Great.
I think, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Dale and Bambi, thank you so much for joining us today. I know I loved hearing your story. I imagine that all the folks that were with us today enjoyed hearing about what you're doing at Mankato. So thank you so much for joining us. And those of you who are on the call with us today, thank you for attending. We hope to hear from you and how we can help bring Read and Write for Google Chrome to your district and to your students. So with that, have a great afternoon, everybody. Bye-bye.